ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरून् श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौरांगी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. So we will start. This is second canto, 9th chapter, sloka number 4. Now we see the response from Lord Brahma, response from Shukadeva Goswami to the questions that has been put forward. Okay, let's chant these slokas. Atma tattva vishuddhyartham yad aha bhagavan ritam brahmane darshayan rupam avyalika vrathadritaha. O King, the personality of Godhead, being very much pleased with Lord Brahma because of his non-deceptive penance and bhakti yoga, presented his eternal and transcendental form before Brahma. And that is the objective goal for purifying the conditioned soul. Okay, purport. Atma Tattva is the science of both God and the living entity. Both the Supreme Lord and the living entity are known as Atma. The Supreme Lord is called Paramatma and the living entity is called the Atma. The Brahma or its living entity is called Atma, Brahma or Jiva. Right? So these are different ways in which we address the spirit or spirit soul. So Atma, like in essence, actually Atma refers to oneself. No, Atma Maya means like one's own energy. No, it refers to. So Atma means to kind of refer to oneself. And in Bhagavad Gita we read that there are different meanings of the word Atma that is there. So one of the meanings is to denote to mind, or sometimes it denotes the body. So if I'm in bodily consciousness, then Atma refers to the body. And if I'm on the platform of Manomaya, then the Atma refers to the mind, and then the Atma also refers to the the soul. So Atma is more towards a pointer to oneself, right? And then Brahma means anything that which is connected to the Lord is called Brahma. So now we have the Brahma is in general, like we call the Brahma means spiritual, or something is spirit soul. For spirit soul we use Brahma, and then we also use the word Brahma for the this one. What is that? The Mahat Brahma. So that is also mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. So for the whole material creation, what is this whole material creation? It is an energy of Lord. So because it has some connection with the Lord, so that also can be called as Brahma. And then we have Dravya Brahma, we call sometimes. So that is Ganges water, which is liquid form of the Supreme Lord. No, Dravya Brahma. So we call in that way. And then Nama Brahma. So especially like when we chant the Mahaprashadam prayers, Mahaprashade Govinde Nama Brahmani Vaishnave Swalpa Punyavatam Rajan Vishwasha Naiva Jayate. So that means Mahaprashad, that is the Mahaprasad that we have, Mahaprashade Govinde, the Supreme Lord Govinda, and Mahaprashade Govinde Nama Brahma. Nama Brahma means the holy name of the Lord. So the Nama Brahmani and Vaishnave, so the devotees of the Lord. So these four things, which Mahaprashade Govinde Nama Brahmani Vaishnave Swalpa Punya Vatam Rajan one who has very, very little pious credits, Swalpa Punya Vatam Rajan, Vishwasha Naiva Jayate. So he cannot put faith on these four elements, no, these four, this one. So they will not get the conviction and faith in these things. So that is why it is mentioned that it requires a lot of punya to appreciate these spiritual things. Before a person can come to the platform of appreciating these things, he should have accumulated a lot of agyata sukruti. Agyata sukruti means sukruti accumulated, sukruti or pious credits accumulated without his knowledge. So such kind of agyata sukruti is required for a person to get appreciation of the spiritual things. Otherwise it is not possible for him to appreciate spiritual things. So anyway, so these now this Atma, Brahma, Jiva is generally used for the living entities who are there in the material world. That's the way the usage of the word Jiva goes. And so this Atma is an self pointer, and Brahma, that is anything that is connected to the Lord in general. And then the Jiva is living entities who are conditioned in the material world. So generally that is the way it is used, the usage of the words. But all of them can denote the living entity or the individual living entity, right? And sometimes the Atma is used to refer to the Lord. We have to, if in some sloka Atma, the word Atma comes, we have to see the context in which it has been spoken. So if it is spoken in relation to Krishna, then it should be taken as Paramatma. And if it is spoken in relation to the living entity, then it should be taken as the living entity. So it is basically like it is contextual, or the meaning changes according to the context also. Okay, so both Paramatma and the Jivatma, being transcendental to the material energy, are called Atma. So Shukadev Goswami explains this verse with the aim of purifying the truth of both the Paramatma and Jivatma. Now, purifying the truth means like just clarifying the whole concept, right? So that's the way it is. Paramatma doesn't need to be purified. He is the Pavitram, idam uttamam. So he doesn't need to be purified, but the purifying the truth of both Paramatma and Jivatma. Generally, people have many wrong conceptions about them. The wrong conception about the Jivatma is to identify the material body with pure soul. And the wrong conception of Paramatma is to think him on an equal level with the living entity. But both misconceptions can be removed by one stroke of Bhakti Yoga. Just as in the sunlight, both the sun and the world and everything within the sunlight are properly seen, right? So if I have darkness all around, then it is not possible to see any. Okay, Prabhupada is also mentioning that. So properly seen. In the darkness, one cannot see the sun, nor himself, nor the world. It's a very nice, this one, example. But in the sunlight, one can see the sun, himself, and the world around, right? So when people are in darkness, when people don't have the elevation in Bhakti Yoga, so then they will be seeing things in darkness. Then they will be like, they'll not be able to see things in clarity, right? So, okay, Srila Shukadev Goswami therefore says that for the purification of both wrong conceptions, the Lord presented his eternal form before Brahmaji. Being fully satisfied by Brahma's non-deceptive vows of discharging Bhakti Yoga. Except for Bhakti Yoga, any method for realization of Atma Tattva or the signs of Atma will prove deceptive in the long run. So this, we have, what are all the paths that are there? It is clearly established in Bhagavad Gita. So we have Karma Yoga, we have Jnana Yoga, we have Ashtanga Yoga, and then we have Bhakti Yoga. And then Krishna specifically mentions in Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktya Mam Abhijanati Yavan Yashchasti Tattvataha. So this is very, very clearly mentioned by Krishna himself. People can understand me only through this Bhakti Yoga, right? So all other yoga processes, it takes a person to a particular level of self-realization, wherein he can understand that he is not this body, he is spirit soul. But then to understand who is God and what are his activities, and to be engaged in the service of that great personality, so that is called Bhakti Yoga. So that is not possible to like attain in any other processes of jnana, karma, or even like Ashtanga, no? So these processes are helpless in revealing the Supreme Lord, because the Supreme Lord himself says, Yogamaya Samavrita, like I am covered by my Yogamaya and Bhaktya Mam Abhijanati. So I can only be understood by Bhakti Yoga. So it's very, very explicitly, Krishna mentions. So sometimes the ISKCON books are sometimes mentioned that, oh, you people only speak about Bhakti Yoga, you people tell Bhakti Yoga as the most important and things like that. So recently we had one, Srila Prabhupada's disciple giving us one class during the Krishna Katha series before Janmashtami. And he was mentioning, I asked this question to him, and he was mentioning, see, forget about anybody's explanation. Now, forget about our explanation of Gita. Just by reading Gita, the original text, that itself says, no, Bhaktya Mam Abhijanati, that itself is fully a Bhakti Yoga process that Krishna is mentioning. And then even till the end, no, Manmana Bhavamad Bhakto, Madhyajimam Namaskuru. So all these things, this is like full Bhakti Yoga. So how can we say that Gita is not speaking about Bhakti Yoga? Or how can we say that Gita is not like exclusively talking about Bhakti Yoga? It is not possible, because Gita is a Bhakti Yoga text, and Krishna and Arjuna, so Arjuna is a devotee of Krishna. And why will Krishna speak about anything else? No, if that is the case. So generally, why do people think like that? Because Bhakti Yoga involves, there is puja is there is like offering of so much of loving devotional sentiments is there, and things like that. So the scholars or people who are more logically oriented, they just discount it, saying, oh, this is some sentimental thing. No, Bhakti Yoga means some sentimental thing, and these people don't know anything properly. So that's how that idea comes, that Bhakti Yoga means, oh, these people are just some bhauk, some kind of sentimental people. So, but actually speaking, Bhakti Yoga is the pinnacle of understanding things, pinnacle of logic. So after understanding that I am not the body, I am the soul, and the Lord is the ultimate controller, and he is the ultimate powerful entity, and he is the source of everything that exists, naturally a relationship develops with him, and naturally the loving sentiments towards the Lord actually arises. So like, what is the problem in having that kind of devotional sentiments towards the Lord? And why do we have to discount just because we have devotional sentiments? We don't have the knowledge aspect. No, we are not logical enough. We are not what is that why the sentiment and logic has to be seen exclusively? No, sentiment and logic can be there both together. No, that's the Bhakti Yoga process. And the Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga, they don't have any sentiments. They're just like, they are very, very hard like rock. No, they're more on logical plane, or they're more on impersonal kind of a plane, right? So they cannot understand the Lord. The Lord will reveal only if there is some relationship, and that relationship involves some sentiments also, right? So that's why the Bhakti Yoga process is the process wherein we can understand the Lord completely. Otherwise, it is not possible to understand him. Right, so we'll read this paragraph again. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that only by Bhakti Yoga can one know him perfectly, and then one can enter into the signs of God. Brahmaji undertook great penance in performing Bhakti Yoga, and thus he was able to see the transcendental form of the Lord. His transcendental form is 100% spiritual, and one can see him only by spiritualized vision after proper discharge of tapasya or penance in the pure Bhakti Yoga. The form of the Lord manifested before Brahma is not one of the forms with which we have experienced in the material world. Brahmaji did not perform such severe type of penance just to see the form of a material production. Therefore, the question by Maharaj Parikshit about the form of the Lord is answered. The form of the Lord is Sat Chit Ananda. No? So in the material world, everything is Asat, Achit, and Nirananda. No, Asat. No, Sat means what? Sat means eternity. No, that which will not perish at any point in time. So we know everything that is material has to go one day. Everything that is material has to die one day. So everything that is material, this particular body, this also have to die one day. So this is, in the material world, things are not eternal, but Lord's form is eternal. It is not destructible at any point in time. And Chit means what? So Chit means knowledge. It is full of knowledge. So that means the Lord doesn't have the problem of forgetfulness or lack of knowledge and things like that. The Lord is full of knowledge. Sat, Chit, and Ananda. No, it is a form of bliss. There is no question of any misery or suffering in that particular form. So this is the kind of form that is there. And in the material world, everywhere it is, we can see, like, all of us, we cannot say that we have all knowledge. So it is Achit. And then Nirananda. Nirananda, how can we say Nirananda? So many people are having a lot of fun and things like that in this world. So how can we say Nirananda? So no, the explanation is that if we see the kind of happiness that we have today, if we explain this happiness to a person who lived some 50, 100 years before, he will laugh at it. No, he will say, like, no, is this a happiness? Is this a life that you're living? So, no, that will be the kind of condition. No, it will be. Why? Because you see, like, most of us get water by some pipelines, and so much of machineries are involved in between, and some people don't even get the line water. They have to buy water, from a tanker or something like that. And even then people think it is very nice, no. And a person who lived much before us in the Vedic times, they used to get clear water in the through the river and lakes and ponds. And the civilization would develop only on the banks of the rivers, and in and around the banks of the rivers. And there is much more natural way of distributing the water was there, and people were drinking fresh water. And that itself will cure a lot of diseases in the body. And now we live in a kind of quite a kind of chemical mixed, and that kind of a life. And we feel it is normal. And if we get water, then we feel like, we are okay, like, it's a kind of a happiness that we have. And on top of it, we buy water. That is, like, if we tell in the Vedic times, water is something, food also, like, something that has been given free. And now we have so many hotels, and even up till water it has to be purchased. So it is like kind of disgusting thing. People would say, like, if we would have told this in the Vedic times, such a kind of time is going to come. So people would say, like, hey, no, that is hellish condition. No, we would not like to live in that condition, right? So in that condition we are living, and we say, like, sometimes we are happy. So it is only a relative happiness. It's only a relative happiness. And Srila Prabhupada, sometimes he explains that, sometimes a prisoner is taken to the water body, and then the soldiers or the prison guards, they are catching hold of the hair of the prisoner, and they are dunking him into the water. And he is suffering and suffocating for breath. And when he's almost about to lose his breath, the soldiers are taking him out, and then he is able to breathe few moments properly, and he feels, oh, this is so nice, I'm able to breathe now. So that's the kind of happiness that he is having, right? So this is the kind of happiness that we are having in the material world. It is just a little bit reduction of misery, wherein the person is taken out from the water. Still the hair of this person is there on the hands of the soldiers, and they are going to dunk him again back at any moment. And he's thinking that in that position, oh, I'm able to breathe a little bit, and that appears to be a great happiness, right? So in this way, like, if you see the material world, the happiness is absence of misery or little bit reduction of misery, kind of gives him a feel that you're happy, right? So we don't have a real experience of what is happiness in this world. So I would like to take this opportunity also to explain the question that had come in a WhatsApp group yesterday, WhatsApp chat yesterday. So one of our participants had asked this question: what kind of state to be? What is Krishna trying to say? I did not. Okay. He said we prepare ourselves to only take his name when we know the body's end is near, instead of expressing physical pain and mental worries. Okay, so this aspect, we can see that the physical pain, if a person is spiritually advanced, he'll be on the platform of Anandamaya Kosha, and in that platform the internal bliss is so much that external bliss doesn't even affect the person. Externally the body may be in trouble, but then he will not feel that pain. He's in much more bliss, deep from within. He will not get affected with that. Even if we have been Krishna conscious throughout our life, there is no guarantee that there won't be physical pain based on karma in the end. The last days of consciousness may make us regret or worry too. It may not be, it may be so that even if we have been Krishna conscious, we would have missing saying sorry or repenting for the inappropriate deeds. So one thing is, the karma is going to get completely destroyed by the process of Krishna consciousness. And even then, why a devotee has to go through miseries? Then Krishna takes charge. Now, when a person practices devotional service, Krishna takes charge. And it is mentioned, just like a potter is making a pot. So when he is making a pot, the potter actually uses a hammer, and then he hammers the pot from outside, and then he keeps a hand within and then protects this one. It is for the shaping, it is for shaping the whole pot, it is required. So without beating, no, we cannot get shape. We know how we make jewelry out of gold. So the gold have to be burnt and melted. No, that is when a proper shape can be brought about. In the same way, no, our contaminations within the heart and the wrong kind of desires that we have. So we may express that, no, Krishna, I want to be your devotee, but then we have a lot of contamination within. And the process of extracting this contamination is going to be a little painful. But then the most happiest thing is the Lord's hand is going to be there with us. So a person who sees the hand of the Lord in his life, he can actually go through the whole experience with a lot of bliss, with a lot of happiness, right? So he can understand that the Lord is shaping him up at this point in time, right? So we also see so many people take a lot of pain for cracking examinations or getting some big projects done and things like that. But that pain is a pain of bliss, because they want to, they are seeing some goal to be achieved. In the same way, the devotee, that is kind of a cheap material example. But then for a devotee, he actually feels spiritual bliss. He actually feels the presence of the Lord, and he actually goes through the whole thing with lot of bliss actually. So this is possible if we can actually chant the names of the Lord with lot of absorption and without any other thought, without any other distractions that are coming in. So we can try to chant, and that will kind of give a lot of spiritual realizations. So one experiment which I was doing is that when many thoughts that come in the japa during chanting time, so I was just kind of discussing with one of my other brahmachari mates in another temple, and this general talk about how to improve our chanting and things like that was going on. And that time one thought came up. So that is, if we think that I have to live after this period of chanting, and then I have a lot of things to do, and I have to manage in this way, I have to manage in that way, I have to do this, I have to do that. So many things comes to our mind. If we tell to ourselves, see, like, I don't know if I will even survive, if I will even live to see the next moment of time, right? So this is the only moment of time that I have. And if something else is there, the world is going on. So many people are dying and the world is still going on. So if I die the next moment, what's the problem? Like, why am I thinking about something which I have to do 1 hour afterwards, or the next day, or even the next year and things like that? So why should I even think about that? I should just live in the present tense. That's spiritual consciousness. Material consciousness means living in the past tense or future tense. Living in the past tense means mode of ignorance. Living in the future means it is mode of passion, and living in the present tense is mode of goodness, right? So that's the mode of goodness. And if we can do that, whatever it helps, whatever experiment helps, or whatever thought process that helps, if we can just try to be in the present tense, and at the present tense, this sound vibration, I've been vibrating this holy name of the Lord, and let me just simply focus on the sound vibration. Let me not just think about anything else. And if I can take shelter of the names of the Lord, this is called taking shelter of the names of the Lord. And also with a feeling that the sound vibration that has emitted now is the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly, Shabda Brahma. He is the Nama Brahma, just before we were discussing about that. This is Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is Krishna in the form of sound vibration, right? So now I am going to give a proper reception to him. And this is a very, very esteemed guest that has come to my home, and I have to give him very, very appropriate reception. And the reception is I have to receive him through my ears. No, I have vibrated the chanting, and now I have to receive him through my ears. And if I can focus on the sound vibration, and no, Krishna is acting upon us, and so many spiritual realizations we will get, that we will be in supreme bliss actually. And in that state, if we can do this process nicely, in that state, how much our miseries come to our life, no, it doesn't matter. Nothing can shake us. Nothing can actually put us into trouble. So this is the conviction that we should have. And if we have the practical experience, then it is even more convincing, right? So that's the main thing. So if we can improve our chanting, that's a practical devotional service, and that is the Yuga Dharma of this age. So if we can focus on that and improve our chanting and take shelter of the names of the Lord very seriously, so then we will have lots and lots of spiritual realization. And I have seen many great devotees who are simple in their life. I often speak about this particular example. One lady, she was doing a service to the Lord, and she was practicing, and nobody else in the family were practicing devotees. But then she would, every day she would make some garland and she would go and offer it in the temple. And she, in her old days, she was becoming very frail and things like that. And all the relatives started speaking about, no, all this life this lady was Krishna Krishna she was doing, and now you see, like, she has to be there in pain. So then what happened, at the point just sometime before her passing away, she became completely blissful. And in fact, her body radiated effulgence. And and the doctors were saying, like, how is this lady not screaming and shouting? No, there is no flesh in the body. There is only bones and nerves. And when the bones and nerves touch, it is so excruciatingly painful. But then this lady was in supreme bliss, and she was not even crying, and she was not even making any sound. And she was like, her face was exhibiting a lot of happiness, right? So that's what her condition was. And sometimes we have seen devotees being in a lot of pain, but they're not complaining at all. No, it's not because they're just putting it underneath the surface and they're just showing up that, no, I don't have any pain. It's not like that. They are experiencing much more highest level of bliss within, that this pain appears to be small in front of it. So that's the way we can actually experience. So this is possible to be understood only if we advance in Krishna consciousness. If we don't have advanced understanding, then it's not possible. Just like a small children, they have some toys with them, and if you snatch the toy away from them, they'll cry like anything. If a ball they have, if you snatch the ball away, they will cry. And in the same ball, if you have in your hand and somebody comes and takes it away, okay, fine, you play. I am a grown up. I don't want to play with toys and things like that. So we don't mind that, right? So that is no more painful to us. That's the exact way. When we are advanced in Krishna consciousness, then we will not have this material pains and pleasures so much affecting us, right? So that's the way to understand this. Okay, so next is, but the material form of living being is neither eternal nor full of knowledge nor blissful, that we discussed. That is the distinction between the form of the Lord and that of the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul, however, can regain his form of eternal knowledge, bliss, knowledge and bliss simply by seeing the Lord by the means of Bhakti Yoga. So we had discussed this sloka in the Dhruva Charitra when we discussed Bhakti Pareshanubhava Viraktir Anyatra Bhaktir Pareshanubhava Viraktir Anyatra Chaisatrika Ekakala Prapadyamana Seyatashnatashrus Tushti Pushti Sudapaya Nugasha. So very, very important sloka for sadhakas to meditate upon. So this sloka says that Bhakti means devotion to the Lord, Paresha Anubhava, that means the direct experience of the Lord, and Virakti, or detachment from the material things, including the pain that the material things are causing. Once we are detached from the material things, the pain that causes also doesn't affect us. So these three things will gradually increase. For whom and how? So the example that is given is, when we take food, a hungry person, when he consumes food, tushti, pushti and shudapaya. Tushti means satisfaction, pushti means nourishment. That means he is gaining energy in his body. And then shudapaya, his hunger reduces. And all these things happen simultaneously. Trika eka kala. All these three things are going to happen simultaneously, right? So in the same way, no, bhakti, paresha anubhava, virakti, all these three things are going to happen simultaneously. When prapadyamanasya, when we take shelter of the Supreme Lord, prapadyamanasya, yatashnatashrush. So this is the way, no, when we take shelter of the holy name, that means the holy name is the master, I am the servant of the holy name. And I'm just trying to chant these names, and I'm just going to simply hear, and that is the service that I'm rendering to the holy name of the Lord. And just by doing this process of prapadya, this prapanna, so this surrender, so we can get the devotion. Our devotion to the Lord increases, our direct experience to the Lord increases, and virakti, the detachment from the material things, including one's body. And if the body is painful, it doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter at all, because it's detached. No, in one of the slokas in Srimad Bhagavatam, it says, for a liberated person, the body and soul is like that of a, I don't know how we say that in the South Indian language, we call it as kopara, like or the dry coconut. No, dry coconut. If you see the dry coconut, if the shell and the coconut has got detached, and if you shake, you can actually feel the dry coconut within the shell is actually shaking. That is how a liberated soul, an advanced soul in Krishna consciousness will feel, that this body is there, but then no, I am soul, I am sitting within. And he can clearly see the difference between the body and soul, and he can clearly perceive the difference between body and soul. And even for him, the body is just doing something. No, it's like a car and a driver. A driver very well knows that he's different from the car, right? So, and anything happens to the car, if it is his car, like if he's got attachment to it, he'll feel the pain of it. But if it is just a taxi or something like that, then he will just get down and he'll just walk off. No, that's all. He will not have pain. So that's the way of understanding. So the practical experience of it is very, very important. Until unless we have practical experience, it is very difficult to understand theoretically, right? So we will progress further. Okay, so where we were, okay. The summary is that due to ignorance, the conditioned soul is engaged in the temporary varieties of material forms. But the Supreme Lord has no such temporary form like the conditioned souls. He is always possessed of an eternal form of knowledge and bliss, and that is the difference between the Lord and the living entity. One can understand this difference by the process of Bhakti Yoga. Brahma was then told by the Lord the gist of Srimad Bhagavatam in 4 original verses. That is called as a Chaturshloki Bhagavatam. That will come in some time. And thus, Srimad Bhagavatam is not a creation of the mental speculators. The sound of Srimad Bhagavatam is transcendental, and the resonance of Srimad Bhagavatam is as good as that of the Vedas. Thus, the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam is the signs of both the Lord and the living entity. Regular reading and hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam is also performance of Bhakti Yoga, and one can attain the highest perfection simply by association of Srimad Bhagavatam. Both Shukadev Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit attained perfection through the medium of Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? So, text 5. Sa adi devo jagatam paro guruhu swadishnyam asthaya shishikshayakshata tam nadya gachat drisham artha sammatam prapancha nirmana vidiryata bhaved. Lord Brahma, the first spiritual master, supreme in the universe, could not trace out the source of his lotus seat. And while thinking of creating material world, he could not understand the proper direction for such creative work, nor could he find out the process for such creation. So this is the first position of Lord Brahma. When he was born of the lotus flower, which has emanated from the navel of Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. So what happens is he's not able to understand where he is, what is his purpose, and no one else is there in the whole world. He's just all alone, and he's thinking like, where am I and what am I supposed to do? Like nothing is able to identify, right? And purport. This verse is the prelude for explaining the transcendental nature of the form and the abode of the Lord. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it has already been said that the Supreme Absolute Truth exists in his own abode, without any touch of deluding energy. Therefore, the kingdom of God is not a myth, but factually a different and transcendental sphere of planets known as the Vaikunthas. Hmm? And this will also be explained in this chapter. Such knowledge of spiritual sky, far above this material sky, and its paraphernalia can be known only by the dint of devotional service or bhakti yoga. The power of creation by Lord Brahma was also achieved by bhakti yoga. Brahmaji was bewildered in the matter of creation, and he could not even trace out the source of his own existence. But all this knowledge was fully achieved by him through the medium of bhakti yoga. By bhakti yoga, one can know the Lord, and by knowing the Lord as the Supreme, one is able to know everything else. One who knows the Supreme knows everything else. That is the version of all Vedas. Even the first spiritual master of the universe was enlightened by the grace of Lord. So who else can attain perfect knowledge of everything without the mercy of the Lord? If anyone desires to seek perfect knowledge of everything, he must seek the mercy of the Lord, and there is no other means. This to seek knowledge on the strength of one's personal attempt is a sheer waste of time. So this is a very, very powerful, this one. Without the grace of Lord, without the blessings of Lord, nothing can be achieved. So we should always be focused on this particular aspect, that I need to have the grace of the Lord. I need to have the mercy of the Lord. Without that, I cannot achieve anything. No, the mental capacity, the intellectual capacity cannot take us through the spiritual subjects. Spiritual subjects are not to be understood by material senses, right? So Sri Krishna Nama Charitadi, no, not that. What is that? There's a very nice shloka that is there. Swayameva Spuratyada, right? Anyways, when I get that, I'll tell you. So this main point I wanted to make there is that it is not possible to understand spiritual subjects through material endeavor, through material intelligence, through material analytics and study and things like that. It requires grace of the Lord. We may attempt to study, but without the grace of the Lord, we cannot achieve anything. So it's very, very important at every single step in our spiritual life. We should be thankful to what the Lord has provided till now, and we should actually be asking for the mercy of the Lord to progress further. So these are very, very important aspects in progressing in Krishna consciousness. Right? So text 6. Sachintyan dve aksharam ekadam bashi upashruno dvir gatim gaditam vacho vibhuhu sparsheshu yatsho dasham ekavimsham nishkinchananam nrupayad danam viduhu. While thus engaged in thinking in the water, Brahmaji heard twice from nearby two syllables joined together. One of the syllables was taken from the 16th and the another from the 21st of the Sparsha alphabets, and both joined to become the wealth of the renounced order of life. So this is the words of Tapa. Ta and Pa. No, that is this one, Tapa, no, austerity. So this is the first thing, the first origin of sound in the whole material sphere, or the first heard sound in the whole material sphere. So Brahmaji, when he is completely bewildered of what is he and what he is supposed to do and things like that. So this sound vibration he hears, and he just hears these two letters, right? So purport: in Sanskrit language, the consonant alphabets are divided into two divisions, namely the Sparsha Varnas and the Talavya Varnas. And from Ka to Ma, letters are known as the Sparsha Varna, and the 16th of the group is called Tha, whereas the 21st letter is called Pa. So when they are joined together, the word Tapa or penance is constructed. This penance is the beauty and wealth of the Brahmanas and the renounced order of life. According to Bhagavad philosophy, every human being is meant for this tapa, or for no other business, because any penance, because by penance only can one realize his self, and self-realization, not sense gratification, is the business of human life. This tapa or penance was begun from the very beginning of the creation, and it was first adopted by the supreme spiritual master Lord Brahma. By tapasya only can one get the profit of human life, and not by a polished civilization of animal life. The animal does not know anything except sense gratification in the jurisdiction of eating, drinking, eat, drink, be merry, and enjoy. But the human being is made to undergo tapasya for going back to Godhead, back home. When Lord Brahma was perplexed about how to construct the material manifestation in the universe and went down within the water to find out the means and the source of his lotus seat, he heard the word tapa vibrated twice. Taking the path of tapa taking the path of tapa is the second birth of desiring disciple. Now, this is the initiation of Lord Brahma. No, Lord Brahma gets diksha in this way. So he gets this words tapa. The word upashanot is very significant. It is similar to upanayana, or bringing the disciple nearer to the spiritual master for the path of tapa. So upanayana, upa means like to bring closer, right? So upanayana means to bring a person closer to the spiritual master. So this is the diksha process actually. So Brahmaji was thus initiated by Lord Krishna, and thus and this fact is corroborated by Brahmaji himself in his book Brahma Samhita. In the Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma has sung in every verse, Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Thus Lord Brahma was initiated by Krishna mantra by Lord Krishna himself, and thus he became a Vaishnava, a devotee of the Lord, before he was able to construct the huge universe. It is stated in the Brahma Samhita that Lord Brahma was initiated into the 18-letter Krishna mantra, which is generally accepted by all the devotees of Lord Krishna. We follow the same principle because we belong to the Brahma Sampradaya, directly in the disciplic chain of Brahma to Narada, from Narada to Vyasa, and Vyasa to Madhva Muni, and Madhva Muni to Madhavendra Puri, from Madhavendra Puri to Ishvara Puri, from Ishvara Puri to Lord Chaitanya, and gradually to his divine grace, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, who our divine master. So this is Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. So one who is thus initiated in the disciplic succession is able to achieve the same result or power of creation. Chanting of this holy mantra is the only shelter of the desireless pure devotee of the Lord. So what has been mentioned as this 18 syllable, so that is Gayatri mantra. So generally that is not issued anywhere outside. Only after Diksha, a person gets this Gayatri mantra. Okay, so simply by such tapasya or penance, the devotee of the Lord achieves all perfections like Lord Brahma, right? So text 7, Nishamyatad vaktra didrikshaya disho vilokya tatranyad apashyamanah swadishnyam astaya vimrishyatad ditham tapasya upadishta ibadade manah. When he heard the sound, he tried to find the speaker, searching on all sides. But when he was unable to find anyone besides himself, he thought it wise to sit down on his lotus seat firmly and give his attention to the execution of penance as he was instructed. Purport: to achieve success in life, one should follow the example of Lord Brahma, the first living creature in the beginning of creation. After being initiated by the Supreme Lord to execute tapasya, he was fixed in his determination to do it. And although he could not find anyone besides himself, he could rigidly understand that the sound was transmitted by the Lord himself. Brahma was the only living being at that time because there was no other creation and none could be found there except himself. In the beginning of the first canto, in the first chapter, first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, it has already been mentioned that Brahma was initiated by the Lord from within, right? So what is that shloka? First shloka of Bhagavatam. Janmadhyasya yatonvayaditaratas chartesh abhigya swarat tene brahma hridaya adikavaye muhyanti yat suraya. So hridaya adikavaye. So the adikavi, or the first created living being in the universe, that is Brahma. So like to him, the knowledge of the supreme or the initiation was given. No, hridaya adikavaye. So this is directly revealed from the heart, all the knowledge that is there. And here the Brahma is hearing the word tapa, and after his penance, the Lord is going to reveal all the wonderful knowledge, from within his heart. So that's how the first initiation happened. First time initiation happened in the whole creation. Okay, so the Lord is within every living entity as a super soul, and he initiated Brahma because Brahma was willing to receive the initiation. The Lord can similarly initiate everyone who is inclined to have it. As already stated, Brahma is the original spiritual master of the universe, and since he was initiated by the Lord himself, the message of Srimad Bhagavatam is coming down by disciplic succession. And in order to receive the real message of Srimad Bhagavatam, one should approach the current link or the spiritual master in the chain of disciplic succession. After being initiated by the proper spiritual master, in that chain of succession, one should engage himself in the discharge of tapasya in execution of devotional service. One should not, however, think himself on the level of Brahma to be initiated directly by the Lord from inside, because in the present age, no one can be accepted to be as pure as Brahma. The post of Brahma to officiate is to officiate in the creation of the universe is offered to the topmost or offered to the most pure living being. And unless one is so qualified, one cannot expect to be treated like Brahmaji directly. But one can have the same facility through the unalloyed devotees of the Lord through scriptural instructions as revealed in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam especially, and also through the bona fide spiritual master available to the sincere soul. The Lord himself appears as the spiritual master to a person who's sincere in the heart about serving the Lord. So this is very nice. This one is mentioned. The spiritual master is the external manifestation of the Supreme Lord. So spiritual master should be treated like the Supreme Lord. And no, it is not that the spiritual master is God, but then he is a confidential servitor of the Supreme Lord, and he should be treated as such as the Supreme Lord. So in that way, the service to the spiritual master is received by the Supreme Lord Krishna. So that's the way like Krishna actually makes the whole process work in the material world. The Lord himself appears as spiritual master to a person who's sincere in heart about serving the Lord. Therefore, the bona fide spiritual master who happens to meet the sincere devotee should be accepted as the most confidential and beloved representative of the Lord. If a person is posted under the guidance of such a bona fide spiritual master, it may be accepted without any doubt that the desiring person has achieved the grace of the Lord. So it is mentioned that Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. So there are so many living entities who are just wandering in this world, not able to understand the spiritual science. So that is why it is mentioned Kona Bhagyavan Jeev. Very, very fortunate souls, they happen to meet the spiritual master who knows the science of Krishna, who understands the science of Krishna in a proper way in the disciplic succession, right? So this is the proper understanding which is coming down since the dawn of creation. Since the beginning of creation. And all the slokas that we are reading now, it's all been written much, much before. And even now the pure disciplic succession is going on where these things are practiced in toto, right? So that's the amazing aspect of the parampara system. And the whole material world is wandering. Everyone is wandering in this world, just behind sense gratification, not able to even trace out what is devotional service. So that's why it is Kona Bhagyavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. Just by the mercy of the spiritual master, one gets the desire to serve the Lord. This Bhakti Lata Bij or seed of devotion means the desire. The seed is compared with the desire. So the desire to serve the Lord is the seed that we get from the spiritual master. And that can be nurtured by the way of Shravana Kirtana. So that is nurtured, that is grown and protected nicely by the way of watering. And the watering process is hearing about the Supreme Lord and reading about the Supreme Lord and also speaking about the Supreme Lord. Okay, so text 8, should we go into this? Okay, let's see this thing. Divyam Sahasrabdam Amogha Darshano Jitanilatma Vijito Bahindriyaha Atapyata Smakilalo Kathapanam Tapastapiyam Tapatam Samahitaha. Okay. Lord Brahma underwent penances for 1000 years by calculation of the demigods. He heard this transcendental vibration from the sky and he accepted it as divine. Thus, he controlled his mind and senses, and the penance he executed was a great lesson for the living entities. Thus, he is known as the greatest of all ascetics. Purport. Lord Brahma heard the occult sound, tapa, but he did not see the person who vibrated the sound. And still, he accepted the instruction as beneficial for him, and therefore he engaged himself in meditation for 1000 celestial years. One celestial year is equal to 6 into 30 into 12 into 1000 of our years. No, that's the one celestial year, right? So his acceptance of sound due to his pure vision of the absolute nature of the Lord. So here, this calculation, if somebody wants to know what is this calculation of celestial years, so celestial years, demigods, years of a demigod means 1 day of hours. One Uttarayana and Dakshinayana of hours, that is literally 1 year of hours, is the 1 day of the heavenly planets, right? So they have 30 such days and 12 such months. That is going to take it's going to take it to the kind of 1 year kind of a calendar, and then one celestial year is 6 into 30 into 12 into 1000. So 6 is another factor that I have to check upon, like what is this particular factor. So it's at least till the Swargaloka. 1 year, one celestial year means what is it? There is our one Uttarayana and Dakshinayana is considered to be 1 day, and 12 into and 30 and this is the factors that are used here to calculate the celestial years. And if we are talking about even more higher stratas, then the number of years actually increases in that calculation. So in Brahma's calculation, if we see 4,32,000 years into 1000, that's Brahma's 1 year. So there is in every we discussed in the chapter of time in the Gita course level 2 about the various stratas of time perception that is there in the universe. So his acceptance of sound was due to his pure vision of the absolute nature of the Lord, and due to his correct vision, he made no distinction between the Lord and Lord's instruction. There is no difference between the Lord and the sound vibration coming from him, even though he is not personally present. The best way of understanding is to accept such divine instructions, and Brahma, the prime spiritual master of everyone, is the living example of this process of receiving transcendental knowledge. The potency of transcendental sound is never minimized because the vibrator is apparently absent. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita or any revealed scripture in the world is never to be accepted as ordinary mundane sound without transcendental potency. One has to receive the transcendental sound from the right source, accept it as the right, and prosecute the directions without hesitation. The secret of success is to receive the sound from the right source of bona fide spiritual master. Mundane manufactured sound has no potency, and as such, a seemingly transcendental sound received from an unauthorized person also has no potency. One should be qualified enough to discern such transcendental potency, and either by discriminating or by fortunate chance, if one is able to receive the transcendental sound from the bona fide spiritual master, his path of liberation is guaranteed. So it's nicely put here. So mundane sound manufactured in the material world, that doesn't have any potency. And the Vedas that are transcendental sound, no, but if it is delivered by a person who is not bona fide, then also it doesn't have potency. The Vedas have to be spoken, and at the same time it has to be spoken by a bona fide spiritual master. And such sound vibration can now have a lot of potency, and it can actually change a lot of things. It can change a lot of things for the good, and it can actually help us in the progress in Krishna consciousness. Okay, so the disciple, however, must be ready to execute the order of the spiritual master, order of bona fide spiritual master, as Lord Brahma executed the instruction of his spiritual master, the Lord himself. Following the order of bona fide spiritual master is the only duty of the disciple, and this completely faithful execution of orders of bona fide spiritual master is the secret of success. Srila Prabhupada often says, this is the secret of success. I have received this order from my spiritual master that I have to go to the West and preach the message of Krishna consciousness, and many other orders that Prabhupada remembers of. I just simply try to execute this, and that is the secret of my success. And sometimes he used to say, like, I'm not that great a scholar, I'm not that great a person, but then why so much of success for me? It is because I've just simply tried to execute the instruction of my spiritual master, right? So, generally the spiritual masters also would not give such instructions. Generally, they would say, like, no, you may do this, and no, like, and things like that. No, they just give an optional this one, because many times the disciples are not very sincere. They would not just follow whatever has been told. So, like, it is no, if they are not following whatever it has been told, then it becomes a guru aparad. So then their spiritual life becomes a problem. That is why the spiritual master also will not give any instruction, you must do this and things like that. So that is only for very, very surrendered disciples. No, that kind of thing is is executed. Otherwise, in general, no, suggestions are given, and then the disciples, if they are intelligent enough, they can follow. No, otherwise, no, they may take some time. Okay, Lord Brahma controlled his two grades of senses by means of sense perception and sense organs, because he had to engage such senses in execution of the order of the Lord. Therefore, controlling the senses means engaging them in transcendental service of the Lord. The Lord's order descends in disciplic succession through the bona fide spiritual master, and thus execution of the order of the bona fide spiritual master is factual control of the senses. Such execution of penance in full faith and sincerity made Lord Brahmaji so powerful that he became the creator of the universe. And because he was able to attain such power, he is called the best amongst all the tapasvis. Right. So in today's morning session, we were discussing about Bali Maharaj's strength. No, he just served his spiritual master Sukracharya, and his spiritual master Sukracharya was so pleased with him that when Aditi, she prayed for a prayed to the Supreme Lord that my children, the devatas, are kicked out of the heavenly planets, and then the the demons headed by Bali, they are ruling the heavenly planets. So then the Lord says, you see, Bali Maharaj, though he is the leader of the demons, but then he has pleased his spiritual master Sukracharya, and nobody can take him off from that position. And a person who pleases the spiritual master, it is quite difficult to defeat him. It is quite difficult to shake him from his position. So it is not possible. But then you have worshipped me, so I will also favor you. So then the Lord Vamana's appearance happens, and today is Vamana Dvadashi. So we had a class in the morning explaining the pastimes of Lord Sri Vamanadev. So that's the power of following the spiritual master. One can get such immense power that they can do anything, right? So that's good. So we will stop here for today's session. Thank you all very much for joining every single day for this Bhagavatam reading, and it is purifying all of us. It's pure, all of us are benefiting out of it. Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.